Hello, my name is Sean Thomas Radcliffe. Welcome to this episode of Preservation Oaks. In this series, we introduce you to yet another extraordinary organization serving their community by conserving and preserving our heritage. It could be an organization in your community, in your county, or in your state. Now sit back and relax and enjoy the program. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is Sean Thomas Radcliffe coming to you from Salt Lake City, and this is Preservation Oaks. On this program, we meet with professionals from genealogical and historical societies across the United States. This episode airs on December 20th, 2021, and so it becomes our Christmas episode. We believe people want to have a better understanding of these precious organizations. They want to learn how they're funded, how each is unique to the communities they serve, what programs and events they currently have underway, what services they offer to the public and their members, and we have confidence that this information is vital for people to know how to work with these organizations and how important it is to join, support, volunteer with, and donate to one or more of these core societies. Imagine you're researching your family genealogy and you discover a link to Reno County, Kansas, but have never really worked with a historical society. Who do you contact? How do you go forward? This program will educate you regarding the Reno County, Kansas Historical Society. If you're a resident in the local area, the program will help you understand what the society has to offer, how you can participate and take advantage of the worthwhile events the society sponsors, and how to best support them by volunteering and donating. Today we greet David Reed, the Chief Curator of the Reno County, Kansas Historical Society. Here's a short bio of David for our listeners. David's family has a long history in the Hutchinson, Kansas area. David received his Bachelor of Arts degree in anthropology at the University of Texas, El Paso, and his master's degree in archaeology from Wichita State University. David is the local expert regarding the history of Reno County, Kansas, and the artifacts and exhibits at the museum. So I want to say I am thrilled to have the most knowledgeable person in the entire area with us today. Welcome to the show, David, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I want to dive right in here, David. First of all, listeners and David, give me a couple of minutes here because I want to say a few things to start with. I'll let you know when I'm done, but I really want you to hear this, David. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I had some time to take a really good look at your Facebook page, and man, I was so impressed. The depth of history and creativity the museum is sharing with the community is just awesome. I hadn't seen it before, hadn't had a chance to get into it. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that.
Yep. Listeners, be aware that during this interview, based upon what I saw on the Facebook and the website, there's just no way we're going to be able to cover everything the museum has to offer. We'll do what we can to cover as much as possible in the time we have. But based on what I saw on Facebook, if you're anywhere even remotely near Hutchinson, Kansas, you really need to visit the museum. Hey, and plan for a few hours visit. And you really need to sign up and enjoy the events the museum sponsors. They really look fun. Man, David, I'm telling you, I just got to give everyone involved at your society a compliment. What you're doing at the museum is impressive. There are so many educational and exciting things going on all the time. Okay, I'm done now. I just had to get that out. You folks are really working hard. You deserve all the praise you can get, not only from me, but the community and your members.
I appreciate that.
Now, we got a lot to cover, and I'd like to start with something I noticed that really stood out, just a physical attribute. When I looked at Hutchinson on Google Maps, the town of Hutchinson is really spread out. And what I mean is that unlike other towns that I look at, and maybe it was just me at the time, but it looks like the buildings are really set pretty far back from the road. There's large parking lots and lawns, and there's also some pretty large gaps between buildings and very wide streets. Was it designed that way?
It was. When C.C. Hutchinson first platted out the city, he increased the width of the streets by about 20 feet extra. I don't know if he was foreseeing the growth of the automotive industry in the 20th century, but he planned very well. Most of the first streets in the town are quite wider, not just Main Street, but several of the streets that are east and west of Main Street, and then also some of the more residential neighborhoods that originally started up, like B Avenue, A Avenue, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and all the way out to 4th. They're much wider than most Midwestern.
Yeah, it's really noticeable. Towns. I thought it was just me, but you're right. Okay, it was developed
he did that on purpose.
Way. Wow. Mm-hmm. How'd the county get its name, Reno County?
Reno County is named after General Jesse Reno. He was a Civil War general. He was killed in 1862, very early in the war. And not only is Reno County named after him, but Fort Reno in Oklahoma and also Reno, Nevada are also named after him.
What made him so special? Just the fact that he was killed early, or why would you name a county after him?
According to the stories that we've gotten from history, he was very well respected by his troops. Okay. He was one of the generals that he would lead from the front. He was with his men at all times. His last thoughts were of his men, so he was very well respected by everybody who knew him. And I think as a way to memorialize him, they named the county after him.
Yeah, that's great. How did Hutchinson get its name?
Hutchinson was named after C.C. Hutchinson, who was Clinton Carter Hutchinson, who was the founder of the town.
Got it. So he was there first. He sort of mapped it out and maybe built a few buildings.
He followed behind the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad, and when he got to the Arkansas River, he decided this was a pretty logical place to build a town. He was able to acquire the land from the railroad company and platted out a town and then named it after himself.
Wow.
It was pretty common practice at in that time.
Yeah. It's not egotistical at all, is it?
I guess not. If you're here first and you want to brag about it, that's a good way to
tell everybody after me.
Yeah.
The town of Radcliffe. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, I looked at your county courthouse. Man, it looks like a very imposing, like FBI kind of building. It looks like something out of Blade Runner. It has an impressive stone facade, and it's really imposing to me. Looks like military, maybe, versus other counties in Kansas, which have these sort of red stone stuff. Is it unique? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I wouldn't say it's unique. It's Art Deco. The story of why we have that courthouse is unique. The courthouse we have today is Art Deco. It was built in 1930. And the reason why we don't have a red brick courthouse anymore was it ended up having structural damage from a salt mine that was built next door. It destabilized the ground the courthouse sat on. The original courthouse was built in 1900, and it was a Romanesque style with the real neat pillars and peaks, and it was a red brick building. And unfortunately, about 20 years after it was built, the salt plant used an evaporative process, destabilized it. They condemned it. It stood vacant for about 5 years until they settled a lawsuit against Kerry Salt. He offered to buy the building, the land, and they used that money to build the current courthourthouse.
Oh, my goodness. So, I have a question to ask you if there's ever been a cave-in because of the salt mines. I guess I got my answer, huh?
Yeah, well, not a cave-in exactly, no. But in fact, I think that's the only instance that we have of the ground being destabilized. And the reason why is because when I say it was next door, I mean it was about 30 feet from the courthouse.
Wow.
So these wells were very, very close to the courthouse.
Wow. Well, that's too bad. But what year was the new one built?
1930.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, it has the style of that, huh?
Yeah, it's one of the most pristine examples of an Art Deco courthouse in Kansas. Almost all of it is original, except for I think they're currently replacing the windows. So it's got a lot of scaffolding on it right now, but I think one of the elevators was replaced in the 1970s. But other than that, everything else is original.
Well, it sure is beautiful. I'd love to go inside it and just look around, at what they designed back then and built.
Mm-hmm.
In the history of the area, you have an entrepreneurial person by the name of Ben Blanchard. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Ben Blanchard was quite a character. He was originally from Terre Haute, Indiana. Started out as a lawyer and decided to, like a lot of men, head to the west. Came to Kansas, became a land speculator, would be the best way to explain it. He didn't really settle in Hutchinson until the early 1880s, mid-1880s. He became quite the broker, was able to bring in a lot of business, created a mini real estate boom here in the county. To kind of capitalize on the Hutchinson name, he founded the city of South Hutchinson, which is actually across the river, and it is today still a completely separate entity. It's still its own town separate from Hutchinson.
Okay.
Yeah, he inadvertently created a real estate boom here, and in doing so, he tried to entice more businesses to come here. He drilled for what he was hoping was going to be an oil well. Didn't find oil, but he found salt. He didn't really think too much of it, but other people, knowing the value of salt, decided to capitalize that. And so after he created a real estate boom, which busted in the late 1880s,
oh, wow.
he inadvertently created a salt boom, so that within 4 years of him finding salt, 16 salt plants had been built in the county. Wow. And there was quite the rush on to capitalize on salt. The salt was not easily transferred out into the middle of Kansas at that time. So by the time it got out here, it was a little bit more expensive than it would be if you were, say, east of the Mississippi.
Wow. Is that where my Morton salt comes from?
Joy Morton came in towards the mid-1890s, and he saw the benefits of investing in salt here. So he began buying up salt plants, and I think he bought up 6 or 7 of them, and he closed all of them down except one, which is still in operation today in South Hutchinson.
Wow.
On the site of one of the earliest salt plants. So
it is where my Morton salt comes from.
That's where some of it comes from. A good portion of it. Yeah.
I was just kidding around, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, there's 3
fantastic.
salt plants here in the county still.
So thank you, Ben, for discovering salt.
Yeah,
wow.
he did a good thing there.
Hey, I read the Kansas State Fair is held annually in Hutchinson, but the capital city of Kansas is Topeka. And typically I see state fairs held in the capital city. Can you tell us why the state fair is held in Hutchinson instead of Topeka?
Well, that is a pretty long story. Books have been written about it.
Okay.
It's very politically charged at the time. Up until the time when Reno County was awarded the state fair, there were many quote unquote state fairs around Kansas at various times, and they all started to kind of compete against each other. By 1910, 1911, it was really starting to, you were kind of getting rid of some of the smaller ones, and it basically came down to Hutchinson and Topeka. And the Hutchinson bigwigs, the movers and shakers of the town, were able to get President Taft to come here for some ceremonies. He visited the fair at that time, and so with his presence, and then with a little bit more political motivation in Topeka, with Emerson Carey and another man named John Graber, they were able to finally get Hutchinson recognized as the official place for the state fair, and that was in 1913. And I think it worked out well for everybody because it's far more centrally located than Topeka would have been.
Yeah. Well, plus they could tell Taft, hey, you're not getting any salt on your table at the White House if you don't do this.
Yeah.
Something really cool is Hutchinson is going to be 150 years old coming up.
Yep, that's true.
What are you planning at the society for that?
The society is going to be taking part of larger events at the county level. I know they're still in the early planning stages of those events, but I know they've got a lot of stuff planned, and whatever they decide they want to, there's lots of ideas. They're still honing them in, and whatever ideas they come up with, I'm sure we'll be involved with them. We've got some stuff on the side that we're contemplating as well, but we're waiting to find out what the county and the city would like to do before we decide to either add to it or modify our own plans in order to do something special based around the museum.
Oh, cool. So when is it actually 150 years old? When is the date?
Well, the county itself is 1871. The town is 1872. And so there was a little bit of discussion on whether or not they should do one and then the other, or do both at the same time. And I think they've decided to do both at the same time next year.
Oh, very cool.
That allows the kind of the pandemic conditions to settle down a little bit more and to make this a little bit bigger of an event that it deserves.
I hope they do a good job because the town deserves it. The downtown,
Yes.
Has it been designated as a historic district on the Register of Historic Places?
Yes, it actually is on the National Register. There are two districts. There's a North District and a South District. They're called the downtown cores. And then we also have, I think there's about half a dozen separate buildings around the downtown area that have been designated. The Fox Theater is a nationally registered building. The Hoke building is also registered, and that one is currently being renovated, which is fantastic. The building is a little over 100 years old, and it's getting a new lease on life, and it's going to be fabulous when they're done renovating it.
Yeah, the Fox is really beautiful. I can't recall the Hoke building, but you've got a lot of really
It's across
pretty...
the street.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, sure is. So the Fox Theater was built in 1930. It's an original Fox Theater, and they're all over the country. This one is particularly special because of its marquee. It's one of the first to have this type of lighted setup. And the theater itself is almost completely original. It's undergone an expansion. It went from 1 story to 3 shortly after it was built.
Oh, wow.
And then they moved, it's a huge building now. And then they moved the ticket booth from the outside on the street to the inside of the theater. But other than that, the theater is almost completely original. It's a fantastic, beautiful building.
Yeah, I'd love to get on a plane and come to Hutchinson, Kansas, and just walk around. I'm serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you tell the audience, try to give us an overview of who you are, who the society is, the communities you serve, something about your membership and the mission of your society?
Sure. So the Reno County Museum was founded in 1961. We serve directly the county population, which is about a little over 60,000 people. And of course, we have visitors from all over Kansas. Wichita it's less than an hour away, so we get visitors from Wichita as well. Currently, I am the curator here. We have an archivist, and we do our best to preserve and present all of the artifacts that have been donated to the museum over the last 60 years. I think we've done a pretty good job in keeping that tradition alive with some of the new exhibits that we've had going on.
So, Chief Curator, you're the guy that looks at the artifacts and says, we're going to put this one out for display versus not?
Right. So, Thomas is our archivist.
Yeah.
And what I like to tell people is that Thomas is in charge of taking care of all of the items. I'm in charge of making stories about all of those items. And when I say stories, I don't mean I'm making up fiction. I'm researching who these people were that own these artifacts, finding out the important details of their lives. What are these artifacts to these people? Because at the end of the day, you can always replace an artifact, but what you can't replace are the people that have lived here, that have used these items, that have made Reno County what it is today. And so I always take greater pleasure in researching the lives of these people and coming up with the story. I like to think of myself as a storyteller in truth.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Have you always been interested in history?
Yeah, I've always been very passionate about history. I got my bachelor's degree in anthropology, and I got my master's degree in archaeology. I was lucky enough to find this job here, and I love coming to work every day. You never know what somebody may bring through the door. You never know what artifact you may come across upstairs. We have over 30,000 artifacts.
Wow.
I've not seen all of them, and so every time you try to make a new exhibit and you start looking at the database, you never know what artifact is up there waiting for you to talk about.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us a couple of funny or interesting stories from the annals of your society's history?
One of the interesting things about the museum is we originally, when we started in 1961, it took about 3 years before they were able to get a building to house the collection in. And the first museum building was a house that was formerly owned by the mayor of Hutchinson. And the museum stayed there for about 4 years until the owner wanted the building back, and we were forced to move to another building, which was offered to us by the town of Haven, which is about 20 minutes south of here. And the museum moved into their old, I guess you could call it, meeting center. They called it the Township Hall. And the museum operated out of there from 1968 until 1986. And the building itself was incredibly old even after the museum moved into it. And when the collection began to get too large, the board members realized that it was time that we needed to find something a little bit more permanent. And in order to entice the public of the county and to get people motivated to help contribute towards moving the museum, they had a report drawn up. They flew in an outside consultant who took a look at the building and the environment that they were currently in. And about the only positive thing that the consultant was able to find was that the building was standing. Everything about the building was in pretty rough shape. The walls were falling. The plaster was falling off the walls. The lighting was bad. The plumbing leaked. You name it, this building had issues with it. And so they were able to motivate pretty much everybody in the county. They were able to raise enough money to buy not just one building, but two buildings. And the current museum currently occupies two buildings.
I noticed that the two buildings are sort of put together. One is called the Great American Life Building for some reason, and somehow you've joined them together.
Right. So the Great American Life Building was built in 1917. It was originally a life insurance company. The other building that houses our collection and our administrative offices was originally called the Rosemont Apartments, and it was built in 1913. They both went through their ups and downs as businesses. The Great American Life Insurance Company was there until the 1960s, roughly, and the Rosemont continued as an apartment complex well into the 70s, where it eventually sat empty for about 10 years before the museum bought the property.
Oh,
and
cool.
the Great American Life Building stayed in use up until the day we moved in 1986. The previous owner sold his business and retired after we purchased it. And then during the renovation process, they put in what we call the bridge, and that joins the two buildings together. And that central bridge used to be in an alleyway, and now it houses on the first floor our gift shop and lobby, and then on the top floor is where our research room is.
Wow, that's a cool story. So both of these buildings are historic, and you sort of joined them so you'd have more space.
That's correct.
Do you get more archive space and more museum space at the same time?
The museum space, there's a lot of space in the Great American Life Building for us to exhibit. The Rosemont, the collection was not nearly as big in 1986 as it is today, and we have almost reached capacity in this building for artifact storage, which is a testament to how the people of this county perceive their history, and they are very active in their donations. We get donations that range from small photographs all the way up to furniture. It's a large testament for a community of this size to rival other organizations in areas that have towns that are factors of magnitude larger than Hutchinson and Reno County in general. Yeah,
I could see it on the Facebook page. You've got total community involvement, and it looks like everybody's having fun and everybody's participating. It's very nice to see.
Yep. Since we have a Christmas episode, I did a little bit of research on Christmas in Hutchinson, and at the time, the Hutch News was a weekly newspaper, so they published January 2nd, 1873, and talked a little bit about the events that happened on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And I wanted to just read a couple of little excerpts from that article.
That would be great.
All right. So the first one, we have several times stated that the people of Hutchinson as a class are as intelligent, moral, and refined as may be found at any eastern town. They have come here to stay and brought with them their religion, their manners, and their household gods, fully imbued with the spirit contained in the motto of our wonderfully rigorous state, ad astra per aspera. Hence, when they do anything, it is in mature, simplistic manner, perhaps never before found in a frontier town, only 1 year old, and the appropriate manner in which they celebrated Christmas adds one more to many evidences of their sense of propriety. Young people congregated at several residences for the purpose of practicing Christmas songs and preparing ornaments for the Sunday school tree to be unveiled Christmas Eve. Groups of both big and little folks thronged Meyer and Company's drugstore and made constant and effective attacks upon the splendid assortments of Christmas wares there displayed in all their glory. At 6:30 Christmas Eve, the schoolroom was brilliantly lighted, and a large crowd composed a great measure of happy children assembled for the purpose of annihilating a magnificent Christmas tree, It was not an evergreen, but was made to appear as one by skillful fingers and the use of green tissue paper. It was loaded from top to root with presents and ornaments, while the table beneath was covered with books, boxes, and pictures. After appropriate music and prayer, the work of distribution began. How the little folks rejoiced at this phase of the game. The whole affair passed off with great hilarity and satisfaction. The Eagle House was filled to its capacity with the elite of Hutchinson to enjoy entertainment given by the Quadrille Club. McMurray's string band was on hand, and all went merry as a wedding bell until 5 o'clock in the morning. When we waked, Christmas morn, the little boys were popping firecrackers and torpedoes, which they kept going all day. And the article ends with, "May the holidays ever hereafter be so pleasant." And it seems to me that Christmas in 1872 is pretty much the same as it is today.
That's fantastic. I wish you much luck with your Christmas in the Courtyard, and I hope you have a really warm Christmas. I love Christmas.
Yeah, me too. I love it too.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. Year passes, fa la 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 la. Hail the new year, lads and lasses, fa la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. To be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. Fa la 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 la.
The Reno County, Kansas Museum is fairly large, as you mentioned. Right across the street is this really large building called Memorial Hall. What's the history of that building?
Memorial Hall was built in 1911, and that was the building that President Taft came here to inaugurate. He helped set the cornerstone of that building. He was invited here by the Masons. It has served as a venue for concerts and events and meetings, you name it. It's a very large building for that type of event. They still use it today. It's been renovated several times over the years, most recently in the 90s. However, the building, because of its age, suffers from some drawbacks, such as, believe it or not, it has no air conditioning.
Oh, wow.
And and it also has some ADA compliance issues. But other than that, the building is structurally sound. One of the fun things about that building is that it sits on top of Cow Creek, which is a river that runs right next to the museum, underneath the building, and continues out.
I had read something about that, and the article I read said that you could go down into the basement of the building and actually look at the creek.
That is correct.
Oh,
I've never done it myself, but that is correct.
Wow, that is so unusual. Oh, man.
Yes.
Well, I hope it lasts long and it serves the community for many more years.
Yeah, it's very busy even today. It still gets plenty of events taking place inside.
I read on your website that you have a new vision that started in 2020 that impacts Reno County citizens. What is that vision, and how has the community reacted to it?
Well, the vision was a complete overhaul of our main floor gallery. The gallery that we had down there hadn't been really updated for almost 15 years. And it was starting to show. We decided to come up with a new concept that would allow us to tell a more complete history of the county in a chronological sequence. In doing that, we decided to kind of break it out into phases. As shortly after we came up with this vision, COVID hit, and we were forced to slow our progress down considerably. We've been tackling an exhibit at a time where we can. We've removed walls, we've added new exhibits, we've moved things around. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I think people are very excited to see this more comprehensive style of museum so that people can come in and find out not just one aspect of Reno County, but the entire chronological history of Reno County to see how we got from point A to point B.
That is so important.
Yeah, we're very excited to finish this. With any luck, we should finish it by next year.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I read that you hosted a ghost hunt and live stream for Halloween on October 31st, and that you involved the Wichita Paranormal Research Society. What can you tell us about that event?
Well, it's one of our more popular events. Because of its small size, it was an event we were able to continue through the pandemic. We were able to keep our groups fairly small, and that's kind of a necessity just because of the spaces that people go into, things of that nature. And it's because of museums having this antique and this old time and this kind of atmosphere of spookiness. It's always been very popular. People can come in and they can get into parts of the museum that the average visitor doesn't get to see. Most of the staff has had some kind of unexplained experience in the museum. And so that kind of storytelling also helps really kind of build interest in it. The Rosemont tends to be the spooky building.
Yeah, and this Wichita Paranormal Research Society, have they gotten, what do they call those? EVPs, where you record a ghost saying something or any of that kind of thing?
Yeah, they've been out here a couple of times to help us. I think the last time was a couple of years ago, and they did pick up a couple of EVPs before. One of them was in our children's area where they caught what sounded like somebody banging a drum, and we do have a drum up there for the kids to play with, and they've heard some responses from questions. We didn't get any hits this time around, but almost every other time we've had something happen.
That's got to be so much fun for the people that participate.
It is.
Just great. And do you live stream that?
We do, and every time that we've live streamed it, we've been able to kind of hone our technology.
Yeah.
As you know, podcasts and live streaming can always have some kind of technical difficulty. And with a building of this age and this size, it always presents unique challenges. But every time it's gotten a little bit better and a little bit easier to do.
David, it's time for a break for a few minutes. Please hold tight, grab a beverage, and I'll bring you back when we come back. All right, listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages.
You're listening to Preservation Oaks, where we celebrate the great work of historical and genealogical societies and give you the information you need to get involved and have fun doing it.
Hello listeners, I hope you're enjoying the program. Please show your support for the MicroStream Radio mission by becoming a patron at Patreon. Providing financial support helps keep your favorite programs on the air today and in the future. A contribution of any amount makes you a member. Show your support today at www.patreon.com/MicroStreamRadio. Your support allows us to bring you more unique and interesting programs. Thank you for being here and thank you so much for your support.
This is Sandra Bengtson, the president of the Fremont County Historical Society, and I love listening to Sean Thomas Radcliffe on MicroStream Radio.
This is Peggy. My friends call me Pickles. I'm a friend of Sean Thomas's. You know, regardless of where you're from, or which historical or genealogical society you're working with on family research, proper etiquette is important. You don't want to appear to have been raised by wolves. It's a good idea to know some essential skills when working with these valuable societies. Using proper etiquette will help you support the organization who are performing the sometimes grueling work to find information for you. Here are essential skills for you to know. Number 1. If you're communicating with a historical or genealogical society and asking for their help in finding information about family members, pay close attention to their policies and take cues from them. Number 2. Many genealogical and historical societies do not have all their paper and photographic records digitized and online. Therefore, things are not fast and easy for them unless they get lucky. Many times, the society relies on the skill and knowledge of volunteers who comb through filing cabinets, books, directories, and newspapers to find information you are seeking, and that will be valuable to you. This can take hours, days, and sometimes weeks, depending on what you're requesting. Be aware of this effort. It is often invisible to you but quite real. Number 3. Regardless of the official policies, which are generally very low cost, whenever you make a request to a society, please donate liberally to help cover the cost of the time it takes to complete the research, make copies, mail information to you, and so on. Number 4. If the society finds information that helps you, and from that, you know your family lived in the area, then good etiquette is to join and become a member, and then to donate regularly. You can always use Amazon Smile. Doing this causes automatic donations to flow to the society as you shop. As a member, you often receive discounts both on the books you may need, as well as additional research from the society. If you live in the area, it's a good idea to volunteer. That way, you can get to know the records and the history of the area. Having this knowledge will greatly improve the outcomes of your research. Number 5. Whether the research is fruitful or not, always send a thank you note or card in the mail, and don't wait more than a day or two after research concludes. Address the society and thank them for the work they did and the information they sent, or just for trying hard to find something of value for you. Then add another short, positive comment to show your appreciation. Your note may be brief but heartfelt. It's easy to have good manners. These basic rules are just common sense. Ta-da for now, my friends.
If you're a historical or genealogical society listening to Preservation Oaks, and you'd like to be a guest on the program, please email preservationoaks@gmail.com. Again, that's preservationoaks@gmail.com. Thank you.
When my heart is heavy and my soul is weary. When I don't have the answers and can't imagine what the next day, or week, or month will look like. I close my eyes and remember I was never meant to have all the answers and I was never meant to know what the future holds. So I press into what I do know. God is good. God is faithful. In this world we will have pain and sorrow, but we can take heart knowing God has overcome. He is our provider, our comforter, our ever-present help in times of trouble. And there, with my eyes closed and my heart focused on my Father, I find peace.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Thomas Radcliffe, and we're here today with David Reed, the Chief Curator of the Reno County Museum located in Hutchinson, Kansas. For this segment, we're going to focus on the Society's role in the community and the services they provide. You know, I love Thanksgiving, and I really love Christmas. I think that's a great tradition, gathering for Christmas, and from what I read, it's really nice. Can you tell us about it?
Christmas in the Courtyard is one of those things that we really enjoy doing. It's one of those events that is completely free. We just want people to come in and experience the museum, hang out with us, get to know us, get to be part of our role in the community, and to just have a good time and to just get out of the house and do something different. We always try to do something unique. Last year, with the pandemic going on, it was a little bit smaller crowd than normal. This year, we're trying to do some new things. We've got Santa's coming. He's probably going to read some books for the kids. We've got some other events planned for the kids to have a good time with. We're looking at maybe trying to get some carolers to come and sing. But we try to go all out for Christmas. Halloween and Christmas are our two. Not only are they our biggest events, they are undoubtedly our favorite events. Last year, I'll change topics slightly. Our Halloween event, we only had maybe 150, 200 people.
Okay.
This Halloween, we had over 800.
Oh,
and
that's
so
great.
we're hoping that this year we're going to have a similar turnout for our Christmas in the Courtyard, and that we have 4 times the amount of people. Because the more people that come to see us, that shows us how much they appreciate us, how much they want to be here and support us.
And believe me, you guys deserve it. You're doing just incredible things. Right across the street from the museum is something called the Salt City Business College. It's a building there. Is that still in operation?
Not as the Salt City Business College. There is a business over there now, but the Salt City Business College as an entity shut down in 1980. And it had been founded in 1880, so it lasted exactly 100 years.
Wow.
They were a business college that taught people basically business practices, bookkeeping, how to operate business machines, things of that nature. And it was a very formalized, accredited school that was very popular and very prominent for a very long time.
Yeah,
And,
that'd be still a great
fantastic
thing.
building.
It'd still be a great thing to have in any community, something where you get out of high school and now you specialize in all of the things you need to start and operate a business, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Very nice. What I think is the coolest thing I've seen or heard of yet, in Hutchinson, your organization manages something you call the Stratica, which is a local salt mine, if I understand it correctly. I read that visitors get to go 650 feet underground to tour the mine. But that's not really the coolest thing. That's cool, but that's not the coolest thing. There's a couple of things that make this one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. Number one, the mine goes under a portion of Hutchinson's east side of the city. And so you've got a city on top of you. And then number two, which is something I've never heard of, is that the society sponsors an annual 5K run, a 10K run, something you call the Tour de Salt bicycle race, completely underground, 650 feet.
That's 100% correct. The salt mine is 650 feet underground. It's been in continuous operation since 1923. It still has active mining in it today. The portion that Stratica occupies was originally excavated in the 1950s.
Wow.
So that part of the mine is inactive for mining. We have another company that's down there with us called Underground Vaults and Storage, and they provide storage facilities for people that want to put documents and things of that nature in a safe and secure place. The salt mine itself is one of the safest places in Kansas. It's never had an accident. There's never been a cave-in. There was a small fire once upon a time that didn't last very long, and most people don't even talk about. Didn't cause any injuries. It's immune to earthquakes.
Wow.
It's a very safe place to be. And one of the biggest questions that people always ask is, do you ever experience earthquakes?
Yeah.
And I'm not a geologist, so there's a very scientific reason involved. But yeah, you don't feel anything underground, and it's a very nice, calm environment, very stable environment.
Yeah. Plus, it must be good for you because I can buy these little lamps made out of Himalayan salt blocks, right? And supposedly they're good for you in some way, right?
It does seem to be easier to breathe down there. That is for sure.
Wow.
There's no bugs down there. And one of the common misconceptions is that people assume that it's a very tight space when in reality, the way the mine is, each corridor is more than 40 feet across, and the ceilings in parts of Stratica are 10 feet tall.
Wow.
So it's a very open environment down there.
Well, it's got to be huge if you can do a 5K and a 10K run down there.
That's correct. Yeah,
wow.
It runs off into the mine in places that normally, if you're a visitor to the museum down there, you don't get to see. We get runners from all over who come here just to take part in this. It's a pretty unique event.
That's what I was gonna. You go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say the cyclists that come from all over the country.
Yeah.
I think the last time they had people from as far away as Washington and Oregon. So people definitely come to take part in that.
Well, I tell you, even if I was living in Italy or, anywhere in the world, and I heard that I could do, a tour de salt on 650 feet underground, you can't do that anywhere. I mean, that's got to be a bucket list kind of thing, right?
It is for a lot of people. It is something else, and it's something else to see, because, like I said, with the size of the mine, it's pretty remarkable to see that many people racing abreast. You can race 4, 5, 6 bicycles across, wow, and not even come close to hitting somebody. So it's a great environment.
I started doing some research to try to find out, how unique this is. So on the interwebs, I only found 3 other underground events that even came close to this. There was one in Colorado, and I can't remember exactly what it was. There was one in Kansas City, Missouri. And finally, there's the Natural Bridge Caverns in Texas. But there's just not a place like this anywhere, really.
No, and they have not only the bicycling and 5Ks, they also have a theatrical show that comes through once a year called Murder in the Mine, where it's a murder mystery show with dinner. And then they also have a conference venue down there, so that if you wanted to, if you want to book business meetings, they've hosted weddings down there. It's a very unique environment to take advantage of.
See, that is so cool. Oh, man, that's the coolest thing I've heard in a long time. Is the salt mine still in operation?
Yes. Yeah, it's currently owned by Hutch Salt. Originally, it was built by Carey Salt in 1923.
Wow.
It's been in continuous operation. They have quite the facility. If you pull it up on Google Earth, you'll see Stratica as a tiny little building just to the southeast of a very large complex, and that's where Hutch Salt is, and they still pull out several tons of salt a day.
Wow. Do you think they've ever pulled out something like a woolly mammoth or any of that?
Salt that was laid down in the mine is from the Permian times. It's a very old seabed, and it's very unlikely to find anything that would be that old, that far underground. So it's the salt that's down there is 98% pure. It's a very good salt. It's a very refined salt. It doesn't take a lot of work once it gets up to the surface to make it so that it's usable by the general public.
Wow, that is very cool. Something I read, which is also pretty cool, is the society had a project to interview members of the African American community. On your website, you call these people the pioneering families and leaders in Hutchinson. Can you tell us more about that project?
Yeah, so this project was started a couple of years ago. Shortly before I got here, it was completed. We're starting a new phase of it, but essentially the first phase was reaching out to the African American community, because in Hutchinson, especially in the museum, they're underrepresented, and we wanted to change that and to be a little bit more inclusive with that part of the community. And so the initial phase was to reach out to people who were pioneers in the field that they had decided to go into business with. So whether they were mechanics or firefighters or teachers or nurses, if they were doing community service, we wanted to talk to those people and show how they have contributed to the Reno County community as a whole. And it was an overwhelmingly positive experience. And it was great to add not just their artifact to the museum, but their stories. Because for me, the stories are always more important. Those are the things that cannot be replaced. To have those contributions where we can permanently save them for future generations has been a very meaningful exhibit for us.
So what happens with those? Is the society going to write a history book on them, or can the public listen to those histories?
Well, one of the things that we're trying to do is, in light of COVID, we've been trying to make more of our archive accessible. And so one of our goals is to use our YouTube channel in a more productive way. And we're attempting to have those histories that have been either recorded orally or with video to make them accessible where people can watch at their leisure and have access to them whenever they need to do any kind of research or they just want to know more about Reno County history.
Yeah.
So we're working on trying to make those accessible. And I don't remember the exact amount, but there are at least 100 oral histories that we are in the process of trying to make available.
That's amazing. Just think if you had a C.C. Hutchinson himself talking about how the town started and, so on. This is a treasure trove of history.
So one of the stories that I like to relate to people is you see photographs all the time, and you see photographs of buildings, but you don't know much more about them other than factual dates. and who operated in there and where. And there's a building that is in many early photos of Hutchinson, and it's called the Reno House. And the Reno House was one of the first hotels in Hutchinson, and it would provide settlers and pioneers, a place to stay. Well, it's always been a static object in most photographs until I recently came across a story where a man came in. He was 10 or 11 years old at the time when he came here with his family, and they stayed at the Reno House. And in his telling of his family's history, he said his mother refused to stay there more than 2 days because the bed bugs were so bad that she couldn't sleep at night.
Oh my
and
goodness!
Those are the kind of stories you never get to hear about through a photograph.
Absolutely,
you have to have somebody tell you those. And so to have oral histories, to have family histories, those are the things that we absolutely love, because that brings these buildings to life.
Yep, you and the community are very lucky. Hey, who was Solomon Butler?
Solomon Butler. He was a very fascinating, and he was a great man. Solomon Butler's family was originally from Oklahoma. His father had originally been a slave. He served in the Civil War. After the Civil War was over, he got married, went to Oklahoma, homesteaded. They had a little bit of problem with land ownership title. His family was forced to relocate up here to Hutchinson. Solomon was in the 6th or 7th grade at the time, and he had 2 sisters and a brother, and he went to high school here up until his senior year. And before he joined the basketball or football team, Hutchinson High School had been a losing team for many, many years. And Solomon Butler was quite the athlete, and for the 2 years that he played football for Hutchinson High, they went undefeated.
Wow.
He wanted to stay and finish out his time here, but like most places in at this point, it would have been about 1915, 1916. There was still a little bit of a racism issue. I shouldn't say a little bit. There was a racism issue in this part of Kansas. Hutchinson has never been exempt from racial issues. They've been a little bit more muted here. And so he was able to excel in this community, whereas places that he tended to play, like in Wichita, Great Bend, those places would not take the field while he was playing.
No way.
And so Solomon decided to save his teammates a lot of issues, and he decided to move up to Iowa, and he followed his football coach to Iowa, and he went to Dubuque University. He graduated from there. He was the first African-American to quarterback a football team for all 4 years. From there, he made the Olympic team.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he hurt himself in the qualifying trials, and he was forced to pull out, but he was very instrumental in staying active in the African American community. He eventually settled in Chicago and was very active in promoting sports. He was a sports writer for a black-owned newspaper there. He was quite an amazing individual, and while he didn't live his entire life here, I like to think that his formative years were really shaped by the atmosphere here in Hutchinson. And I know in the next few years, there's a professor at Dubuque University who's currently writing an autobiography, which should be a definitive source of information for Solomon.
Oh, that's great.
I'm very excited to hear that come out.
Yep. God bless Solomon. That is a fantastic story. I know everybody is squeezed for funding these days, and especially with COVID, it just sort of put the brakes on a lot of things. What are your society's objectives and funding goals for 2022?
For 2022, we hope to build on the success that we've had from our Halloween event and what we anticipate for our Christmas in the Courtyard. We've got some things coming up that we're planning on. We haven't solidified. We're thinking about having a zombie run. That hasn't been finalized yet. We're also in the process of creating basically an antiques roadshow style event to help promote interest and also fundraise for the museum. And that will also take place, if we can make this happen. We want to do that in Memorial Hall. Those are the kind of things that we're really anticipating, looking forward to. And hopefully with that funding, we'll be able to finish up some of the larger projects that are facing us in the gallery right now. Some walls need to come up, some walls need to go down.
Yeah.
With the way the society is operating right now, there's a lot of things that are up in the air, and you can plan a lot, but you don't know until you get a lot closer.
Yep, agreed. What kind of fundraising activities? I know you have the Christmas annual event, the Halloween annual event. What else is going on that brings in funds for the organization?
We do have a conference room here that is very popular with events. People like to rent out our conference room for birthdays. We've had baby showers here just recently. We have a lot of professional meetings that people like to rent out. We can do it during the day. We do it on the weekends. It's a very versatile environment. Our children's area upstairs, our Oodleplex, is a very heavy draw for us right now. Parents like to have a place that's safe, that's indoors, that's a little bit different, a little bit educational. So they come in here, and while we operate on donations, parents are more than eager to donate towards the upkeep of the Oodleplex. And we have a lot of great changes coming for the Oodleplex. We've already done one. We've got another one that's planned for the spring. We hope to just keep changing it so that the kids are excited to come here. It's
Otherwise it gets boring for them, right?
Exactly. And we have parents, at least once a week, I'll have a parent tell me, my parents used to bring me when I was a kid, and now I'm bringing my kids. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to continue.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
That the parents today and those kids and their kids, they all come back to the museum.
That's great. Do you guys have like online shopping on your website, or do you sell like coins or books or apparel or things like that?
Yes. We have an online store that has most of our items available. We have a brick program where you can have a personalized brick placed in our courtyard.
Oh, fantastic.
We have clothing. We have several books on our website. We're in the process of trying to reprint 2 other books to put in our gift shop. The gift shop is just growing by leaps and bounds, and we're real excited to see what the new year is going to bring for the gift shop. We've got a lot of ideas and a lot of unique things that we're looking forward to putting in there. Before, it was more of a generalized gift shop where you can go in and you find the typical gift shoppy things that you would find at one side of the United States to the other. And we want to be a little bit more specific to Reno County so that when you leave here, you leave with a piece of Reno County.
Yeah, that's very cool. Do you have different membership levels?
Yeah, we have several membership levels. Because we have Stratica, when you're a member of one, you also get benefits to the other because we're all under the same banner of the Historical Society. So you do get a benefit on both organizations.
Oh, that's great.
When you're a member, you will get discounts to the gift shop. There's discounts on some of the rentals. We have an emailing list that will tell you about upcoming events, any kind of specials that we might be running. We do offer all of that. So those ways of supporting the museum are very helpful to us. In the past, we had a magazine publication called The Legacy.
Yeah.
There's an effort to try to bring that back as a digital entity, and that would become something that we would supplement into our membership. But again,
I don't want to interrupt you, but I need to ask, what replaces the Legacy Journal? Is there anything right now that is replacing it?
So the Legacy, even though we don't have it anymore, we did digitize the entire collection, and they are available on issuu.com, which is ISSUU.com. And you can actually go there, or you can come to our website and you can click and view the past issues that ran from 1990 to 2015. And they're all online to view whenever you want.
Yeah, that's very cool. And it's very cool that you're thinking about bringing it back. I still think there's a place for journals like that. I'm not quite sure. I haven't figured out in my own mind what they should contain. I know they should contain news of the society, but a lot of, like the New England Journal, right, had excuse me, all of the new records, or they had a piece on, here's this town and here's all the people that lived in this town. And so people would save those and refer back to them for their research.
Well, the journal, believe it or not, is still a very handy tool for me. I find myself still referring to them every once in a while because, to be honest, there's no sense in redoing work that's already been done.
Yep.
And so if somebody's asking me for research on somebody, I'll check the Legacy, and if there is, hey, here's a digital copy, and I can email it to them, and they will have more information faster than I could just do over for them. So it becomes a very handy tool for me to serve not just myself, but the community who may want to know some of these old stories. And because some of these issues are from the early 90s, there's people out there who've probably never seen any of those issues, and to make them digitally accessible is a great and valuable tool for us.
Sure is. Do you have any sort of specialized certificates for people?
There's been several ideas that we've kicked around. In the past, we've had programs where there was a summer program where kids could become basically a youth museum curator.
Oh, cool.
And they would get a little certificate for that. But at the moment, we don't have one of those programs, but we look forward to being able to do something like that again.
I really like that idea, youth curator.
Yeah.
Oh, and they could get to learn something cool about history and be able to relate it to people coming in, and then they get a certificate.
Yeah, the program was very successful. It lasted for about 6 weeks. Every year they would do it for about 6 weeks, and it was 2 or 3 hours a day, a couple days a week. The kids would come in, they would learn a new aspect of history, and it was very popular.
Keeps you guys busy too. I mean, you guys are busy all the time. That's amazing.
Yeah, but this is the best kind of busy, when we have kids coming in who are so excited to be here. We love having kids in the museum to check out the history, because they take that with them, and we like that they have that passion, and we want them to keep that so that they continue to be motivated to participate, not just in the museum, but in their community, to help drive that history.
Yeah.
So we're always excited to have programs that involve kids.
That's fantastic. Speaking of the community, how's COVID-19 affecting your society, or how has it affected your society and the community?
Well, like most museums, I think our visitors have dropped off considerably. They've started to come back slowly, but that was to be expected. We shut down for a couple of months when COVID first hit, and then since then we've been taking the necessary precautions that are recommended by the county to keep everybody safe, and we've maintained our normal hours of operation. We clean and sanitize our children's area on a daily basis so that none of the kids are getting sick. We want to be a presence that's safe and that people can still be actively participating in. And we understand that there's a lot of apprehension out there, but we just want them to know that this is a safe place that they can be and still have something to do in the community when a lot of other things may be very curtailed.
Yep. Another thing I was looking at was you've used this thing called pocket sites to create a historic walking tour of the community. I really like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was something I stumbled across. I'd heard of other towns doing it, and they had done their own proprietary software. And doing some research, I found that Pocket Sites offers software that you can download onto your PC, set up your own historic tour the way that you want, and then from there it updates onto their app, and so that anybody can take advantage of that. And one of the great things about Pocket Sites is that they have unlimited tours that you can subscribe to. And so we decided to do that, and we invited the Art Council to participate. And they have also created 2 art tours that you can also follow.
Oh, wow.
And so, museums are not just curating history. We also want to curate culture. Yep. And so if people can be involved in art and appreciate art, and they've done a fantastic job in taking a photo of what that artistic object is and telling you about the artist and telling you about what it is you're looking at. And that's a really great tool to help facilitate in the community.
How do you keep the community informed about the progress of the society in achieving its mission? I know the newsletter's not there, but how do you get the word out to the members of the society?
We have a very active Facebook page, and the community has been very responsive. We try to keep things fun. We try to keep things fresh. We try to keep them involved and contributing to our Facebook posts. So that way we're not just telling you about a thing. We want you to be involved in understanding what this thing is. We try to be funny. We try to be clever. It's almost overwhelmingly positive. And every month, our numbers continue to grow on our Facebook page. And something to kind of tell the Reno County residents, I did the math, and per capita, we have more people involved on our Facebook page than Wichita does. So that's a great thing for us.
It just lit me up when I saw all of the involvement. And actually, I saw not only involvement, but I saw people having fun. And that just got me. I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to go to Hutchinson.
We have several historians that also have their own Facebook groups, and we all collaborate, and it's a fantastic environment for history, because when we make a post, that post tends to get shared between at least half a dozen other historical groups that are on Facebook. So it just branches out into all aspects and all areas of Reno County and into the nation as a whole. Every once in a while, we'll get out into the national level and people will see us, and that's always an exciting thing. That little old Hutchinson, is making waves.
Little old Hutchinson is really nice. Hey, David, it's time for us to take our second break for a few minutes. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Hello, mates. I hope you're doing well and enjoying the program. Whatever programs you enjoy remain alive and on the air thanks to contributions from generous donors like you. A contribution of any amount makes you a member. Please take a few moments and show your support today at www.patreon.com/microstreamradio. Your support allows us to bring you more unique and increasingly valuable programs. We thank you so much.
This is Carrie Eilers from the Cedar Falls Historical Society, and I love listening to Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio.
A couple came to Bethlehem, expecting child. They searched the inn to find a place for you. We're coming soon. There was no room for them to stay, so in a manger filled with hay, God's only Son was born. Oh, hallelujah, 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 The shepherds left their flocks by night to see this baby wrapped in light. A host of angels led them all to you. It was just as the angel said, you'll find him in a manger bed, Emmanuel and Savior. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. We're back with David Reed, the Chief Curator and Historical Expert from the Reno County Museum in Hutchinson, Kansas. David, welcome back. Let's pick up where we left off. I was just about to ask you about the various facilities. So you have the Reno County Museum, you have the Stratica Salt Mine Museum, and then what about the Vaden-Stroud Research Library and the Pat Mitchell Research Library? What's going on with those?
So Pat Mitchell was a historian here in Hutchinson. She was a ardent historical preservationist. She was very vocal about saving historic spaces. She wrote a column. She was an artist. She was an all-around Renaissance woman. She died, unfortunately, in 2001. She was relatively young. She was only 54, I think.
Oh, wow.
She had amassed in her life a collection that rivals ours, to be honest with you. And
wow.
She left all of that stuff to the museum. We've been in the process of cataloging all of those items for the last year and a half, 2 years. And she had stuff that ranges from photographs and documents to bottle caps and bricks. I mean, you name it. She had it. And so our goal is to make her entire collection available for people to view online. And we got a grant to do that. And we are going to have the Pat Mitchell Research Library as a new place for people to come where they can access not only Pat's material, but also the entire museum's archive. And her work has allowed us to tell the Reno County history so much better. She's got things that we didn't think existed. She had a newspaper collection that could rival a library. So we're very excited to unveil that. If you go to our website, you can actually go and look at what has already been digitized. We partnered with Wichita State to digitize our collection and to host it for us.
Oh, wow.
And so you go on there, and I think there's currently a little over 400 images that are on there, but there's another many thousands on their way. And it's a great place for people to continue to watch as we actively load things onto the website that you can look at. And it's very user-friendly. It's very easy to access. We're just over the moon excited about being able to show this to the population of Reno County. And because it's now on our website, anybody who comes across our website anywhere in the country or the world can see just how much work this woman did in her life, and it's truly astounding.
She's quite a champion. I'm excited
Yes.
for you. That's fantastic. How have you communicated this
woman.
to the public so that they understand the tsunami of wonderful that's about to hit them?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. We've got social media, obviously, our website. We've done radio ads. The Hutch Community Foundation was who gave us the grant. They've helped get the word out as well. It's something that we hope people understand the magnitude of this project and just how great it will be for the community. So we've taken out all the stops on all the different ways that we can get the message out that people should really come and see this. And we've kind of coupled it with an opening, with an exhibit, so that there's kind of a double whammy for people to come to the museum to see this. Come see the exhibit, and while you're here, please look at what this woman was able to accomplish with her life. And
That's fantastic.
It's truly exciting. Yeah.
Hey, as the chief curator, you have a knowledge of the artifacts in the museum's collection, and you mentioned that there's no way you haven't had a chance to see them all or memorize them all, and I wouldn't expect that. But what, in your opinion, is one of the coolest artifacts donated to the museum?
That question is like asking an artist what their favorite color is. Normally, my answer to that, because I get asked that on a regular basis, and normally it's the last object that came through the door is my favorite. And so when I think about a question like that, there's a couple of things that pop into my head right away. One, we recently had someone donate to us a teacher's contract from 1872. She's one of the first teachers to come into Reno County, to see her duties and responsibilities and her wages and all of that is a truly unique artifact. We recently were donated a very substantial collection of photographs from a man named Nation Meyer, whose family has been here since the beginning. His grandfather came to the county in 1872. He was a business owner. He was a bank president, and they documented the very early days of Hutchinson with photographs, and now we have those photographs here, and it's very exciting. We've got all of those scanned, and it's only a matter of time before we can get those uploaded so that people can see the very early days of Hutchinson in Reno County. On a kind of a quirky note, the one object that almost always sticks out of my head is a pickle in a jar is what we call it, and it was a young man in the 1880s put a pickle in a jar for a fair project. Okay. And he decided to leave that pickle in the jar, and it's still in the jar 150 years later. He sealed it with wax, and so we have a pickle in a jar.
And it hasn't deteriorated?
No. Oddly enough, he preserved it. He preserved it with something. And we have not, we have not, and we'll probably never open that jar. But it's very interesting.
That's very cool.
It's a very unique object. Yes.
First time I heard that. Hey, you've got so many exciting things going on that lots of people probably want to volunteer and probably do volunteer. What kinds of things can volunteers do at the museum or in Stradica? What opportunities do you have?
Everything. We can use help with our front desk, the reception area, as visitors come in. That's starting to pick up. And before COVID hit, we didn't have anybody out there because we didn't really need anybody because we weren't getting a lot of visitors. But now it's picking up. Having somebody out there to greet the visitors and to talk to them and to find out, do they need help with research? Are they here for the museum? So the front desk, helping with events, is always a fantastic way to help support the museum. People like to come and help set up. For our Halloween event, we had a collaboration where people played as ghosts. We had volunteers who would, they would talk to the kids and interact. We always need help in our archival area, doing inventories, accessioning new items. We've been trying to photograph all of our objects in the archive so that when people access it from the research room, they can see photographs of the objects that we have in our archive. And when you have 30,000 objects, it's going to take a little while unless we have help. Yeah. So that's one way. And the most basic way is, if we have something that needs to be built. I mean, there's just any number of ways that somebody could help.
Good. Good. So people of Hutchinson, Kansas, please go and volunteer. And I know you probably get tons of volunteers or you wouldn't be able to do everything that you do. So, it may not be an issue, but just in case, go and volunteer, folks. It's worth it. Now, you're a county society, Reno County.
That's correct.
And there must be in that, in the county, other societies, genealogical societies, and maybe other historical societies or museums. I didn't scan the county to look for everything, but if there are, how do you interface with those folks?
So the biggest one in Reno County is the Cosmosphere. They are Smithsonian-affiliated space museum.
Okay.
They do some fantastic work. We've recently tried to collaborate with them a little bit more. We're in the process of creating a documentary on one of their founders. They've provided us a lot of material to archive in our museum that talks about their history. Museums have a very bad habit of not documenting themselves.
Yeah.
And so for us to be able to reach out to the Cosmosphere and archive that information for them is just one more way that they can continue to operate in almost two places, because now we can help tell their story as well as them telling their story. And it's a very exciting thing for us to be able to work with the Cosmosphere on.
That's great.
Yeah.
What kinds of interesting books has your society published?
The Society's written 3 books over the years.
Okay.
One of which was called The Hutchinson Spirit, and it's a picture book that shows a chronological history of Hutchinson as a town.
Nice.
Then we have another book about the Cary Salt Mine and its history and operation. And then the last one is on Emerson Cary himself. It's a biography written about Emerson Cary, who was basically a true rags to riches man who came here with his family in the late 1870s, came into town because he wanted something a little bit more than farm work, and became basically a salt king, if you will, in Reno County, who he donated a lot of his time and money and resources to making Reno County a better place.
Nice.
So we have those 3 books available.
And they're all for sale at your gift shop, or they're all available to the general public?
Yep. I know the Cary Salt Mine book and Emerson Cary's biography are both available on Amazon. If somebody doesn't have the ability to access or can't find it on our website, that you can still get them on Amazon as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I want to remind listeners of how to contact the society and what their website is. So the Reno County Museum is Reno, R-E-N-O, co museum.org. And they're in Hutchinson, Kansas. And they also have a Facebook page, so you can look them up on Facebook. You can phone the society at 620-662-1184. And the email is Katie, K-A-T-I-E, at renocomuseum.org. And I did that for a reason, David, because I want to ask, what kinds of things can people do on your website?
Okay, so on our website, you can donate to the museum. You can purchase items through our gift shop on the website.
Cool.
Pat Mitchell's collection is available to view on our website. And you can also link into, like, past issues of Legacy are all available on our website so that you can read about some of the topics that we have written about in the past. You can purchase from our brick program online.
Wow.
Like I said, also you can donate on our website if that's something you'd like to do too.
Fantastic. Now, I noticed on your website, which I think is cool because I love Amazon Smile, but I noticed you have something, right on your website for ways you can help, and it shows Amazon Smile there. And for those who don't know, you shop at Amazon, you list the Reno County Museum or the Reno County Historical Society as your donation recipient. And as you shop, Amazon gives a portion of everything you spend back to the society. And I think that's very cool.
Yes.
Okay, so sign up for Amazon Smile, folks. Nothing else comes out of your pocket. Amazon does that, and it's a good thing. Beyond using technology, so I know COVID forced us into doing virtual events and working from home and all of that, and it was a steep learning curve for some societies. And then there's society in general. So history, as you know, is always happening, right? And we have things going on, in America today And I'm not going to say good or bad because I'm not about that. But we have, immigration occurring and new members are coming into the community. We have a lot of things going on in society that are changing things. How does the museum or how does the society stay relevant?
We're changing out our main floor gallery to be more inclusive and comprehensive, and that way we can start to tell a more complete story of the history of Reno County. One of the things that the museum has not had in the past was the Native American contribution to Reno County history. And so that's something that I'm in the process of trying to create and promote in the museum, because I think it's something that a lot of museums tend to overlook, or they don't give it enough focus.
Do you have reservations close to you, or or which Indian tribe is what I'm trying to say?
The tribe that had ancestral claim to this area would have been the Osage tribe, and they're currently in Oklahoma. I've reached out to them to talk about particular topics that they feel are important to them, because I feel that only a tribe can tell their story the way they want to tell it.
Yep.
And so I would never overstep my bounds to tell the story of a Native American tribe without first asking them. And so that's a very important aspect that I think most museums, like I said, tend to forget.
Yeah.
Then we had the African American experience. We've addressed in the past the Hispanic experience in Hutchinson, and these are things that we want to continue to grow and to include people and encourage people to come tell us their stories and tell us more about their experiences, because everyone experiences history differently, and the only way to get a complete picture is when you come to us and tell us, because we will always be available to hear history, because that's what we're here for. We're here to serve the public. We just want people to know that is an outlet for them.
Yep, that's fantastic. I know you probably get this question all the time, but I'm going to ask it because I want listeners to hear it from you. Why is your society important to the community?
I think personally that Reno County is unique in its history in a lot of Midwestern towns. I think the way that this town was founded, the way it has grown over the years, the things that it has contributed to make it a very unique county. And I think that a lot of times people don't know. And I want to be here to remind them that Reno County is a very special place.
It is.
And the amount of material that has been donated to this museum over the last 60 years is incredible. And to be able to turn around and show people the things that have been given to us that have shaped their daily lives is a very important thing for me to be able to do. It's something that it should be relevant all the time. People think that they're going about their daily lives and that they're not doing anything important. That's not true. Everyone is important. Everyone has a story. Everyone's experiences are different, and we all react to each other. And when we react together, that's what gives you your community. And so I love being able to tell that story of who all of these people were, no matter who you were, whether you were Emerson Carey, the millionaire salt magnate, or if you were just, somebody who worked at the grocery store for 20 years. It doesn't matter. You were here, you mattered, you affected people, your story counts.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. So let's switch gears a moment. What kind of services do I get from the society in relation to genealogy? Which ones are free, and what do I need to pay for?
Well, the only time we'd ask you to pay for anything is if we had to make copies and things of that nature, just to pay for the supplies. But otherwise, we're here to help. We're free. We've got lots of resources upstairs. We've got funeral records. We've got cemetery records. We have wedding records. We have a pretty substantial collection of documents that can help facilitate any kind of research that you're trying to find about your family. The county itself is a very good resource. If we don't have it, chances are the county still does. And so that's always been a very good benefit for us. It's rare that anything has been tossed out or lost. School records, we've got those as well. They're pretty substantial, so they're not always in the best way to research, but they're still here, they're still accessible, and we're here to help.
Fantastic. I'd like to ask you, what's the best way for people to connect with someone in the society if they have questions or need help?
I am not preferential. I will take phone calls. I will take emails. When somebody calls, that's fine, and then I tend to resolve it with them over email just because it tends to be faster. It's easier for people to get documents because I can either scan them or they're already available on our servers, and I can just email it to them. There really is no preference. I just like talking to people about history. So Whatever kind of information you want, we're here to help.
Thank you so much. All right. I'd like to thank you, David Reed, for spending time with us today. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for making our time together meaningful and very educational. I've had a great time.
My pleasure.
And you know what? Your area's history and your society are truly unique and interesting, as you've mentioned, and it's true. You've enlightened everybody about how you are helping the community and having fun doing it. I'd like to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the society and to you, David. I hope you have the best holidays ever. Take care, okay?
Thanks. Will do.
And with that, we'll end our time with guest David Reed, the Chief Curator of the Reno County Museum in Hutchinson, Kansas. Listeners, for this episode, since it's a Christmas episode, I don't want to spend time doing a wrap-up, but I will make comments and provide a little more Christmas cheer for you all. Please stay tuned for my comments, which is coming up next.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy
And now, we give a Christmas prayer.
Father, I pray that you will turn our hearts toward you as Christmas approaches. Please help us to avoid being caught up in the hustle and bustle of the season and miss the chance to celebrate the gifts of charity, compassion, hope, peace, joy, and love that you sent on that first Christmas. You gave us the gift of hope, wrapped in swaddling clothes and laid in a manger. Thank you, Father, for your immeasurable gift. Lord, I set my heart on you. You are trustworthy, faithful, and the giver of the gift of peace. Please fill us all this Christmas season with your love and grace, and let others recognize you as Savior by your holy presence in our hearts and minds. O merciful God, open the depths of our souls, that we may receive the immortality of our spirits, through the birth of your Son, and by the power of his body and precious blood. For he lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. In the name of our King Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
All right, if you're a listener in the area the Society serves, or if you're a listener researching ancestors in the communities the Society serves, and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting today. The contact information for the Reno County Museum and Historical Society are renocomuseum.org. They're at 100 South Walnut Street, Hutchinson, Kansas 67501. They also have a Reno County Museum Facebook page. You can phone them on 620-662-1184. And you can email them at Katie, Katie, @ Reno co-museum.org. Okay, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, Cloverton, Tchaikovsky, Jingle Punks, Ease Jammy Jams, and Scott Holmes. The Christmas Prayer was authored by Stephanie Raquel and Amy Carroll. Microstream Radio is trademarked. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by Microstream Radio. It cannot be commercially rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere for commercial purposes without the written permission of Microstream Radio. Thanks to everyone for listening. This is Sean Thomas Radcliffe. See you all next time on Preservation Oaks. Merry Christmas!